Hello everybody, this is Gregory with Permanent Weight Loss Made Easy, where there should be no hesitance in your weight loss and in your weight management. Today we're going to continue the series on ultra-processed foods and talk about breakfast middle aisle grocery store foods. Now before we begin, if you need help with weight loss, contact me through the Clarity FM link found here in the episode notes. Also check out my website, which has hundreds of articles and recipes, my 2 books, which you can find on Amazon, my podcast, The Awakened Man, which has been around since 2016, is very health related. My other podcast, The Cinema Rag, which is on Hollywood and movies. And lastly, if you appreciate my content, there's a link for PayPal. Clearly, you should watch these ongoing series, the first, 3 episodes we've done on it. So we talked about how ultra-processed foods are foods that are highly refined and essentially are fake foods, frankenfoods, how they are one of the prime reasons why we are overweight, the most overweight we've ever been in human history. Because they're fake. They give us a lot of calories and no nutrition to very low nutrition. So yesterday we've talked about frozen foods, and now we're going to get to the really heart of the middle aisle foods. And remember, they're middle aisle because what do they put on every other corner? The fresh food, and they know that you have to walk through the middle aisle foods and you have to close your eyes because you get tempted by the bright packaging and of course all the sugar, all the additives that make these foods so addictive. So today we're going to look at breakfast foods. As a whole, breakfast foods is like a dessert in the morning. If you go to IHOP or one of these places, the majority of the menu is going to be what? Carb-based sweets, pancakes, waffles, French toast, all these things drizzled with whipped cream and chocolate chips, all this just junk on it. You'll also look at muffins, donuts, danishes, all these things. Crap. They're just crap, and they have what we talked about before. The large majority of middle aisle grocery store food stuff has what? Some sort of sugar. Typically, it's not even, not some proponent or a defendant of cane sugar, but it's normally not even cane sugar. Then some sort of oil to emulsify it, and then they're going to put in typically some sort of agent to make it have a lot of preservatives, like potassium sorbate, and it's just going to be garbage. So when you look at middle aisle grocery store foods, the big culprit, the big target will be cereals, because when you go to grocery stores, cereals obviously have an entire aisle, and on the opposite side might be like instant oatmeals and breakfast snacks like granola bars and stuff like that. And again, just these are junk. If you look at the typical cereal, even Kellogg's and General Mills knows this, because if you look of what they've done, they do some manipulation. One, they put all the kids' cereals very low, right? So the kids are walking by, oh look, it's Trix, Trix are for kids, And they put the healthier cereals like Mueslix up on the top. They do that on purpose, so they get the kids hooked in. What else? They use the bright boxes, the marketing, all the commercials to get the kids hooked in. The other duplicitous thing that they've done is, it used to be that the serving size for these cereals, whether they be Captain Crunch or just all the cereals, would be a cup. And what have they done in the last decade? They changed the serving size to 3/4 of a cup. So when you look on the back, you think, oh, this only has, only 15 grams of sugar, and you're still thinking it's a cup. You don't look at the top of the serving size, which says 3/4 of a cup. It's 3/4 of a cup, which means that you're getting a quarter more of all the calories and sugar. So they're manipulating you in that regard. But overall, the big problem with the large majority of cereals is what? There's no nutrition. It's a lot of sugar. And if you look at the kids' cereals, you look at Honey Nut Cheerios, you look at all the most popular cereals, what are they? It's mostly going to be corn sugar based, some sugar that's corn based. It's going to be food dyes to make it pretty. It's going to be some oil, like canola oil, which is GMO, and then tons of preservatives so it doesn't get bad. Stays crunchy all the time. Again, a lot of calories, no nutrition. Let's talk about the healthier cereals. So there are cereals that are going to have fiber, like Raisin Bran, for example, will have more fiber. But if you look at Raisin Bran, it actually has more sugar per serving than the junk cereals. You are getting more nutrition because of the bran, not really because of raisins, because raisins are junky, but they have more sugar because they put actual added sugar on the raisins, plus raisins are just sugar. I always stay away from those. So look, if you're going to get cereal, you got to get something that's somewhat nutrient dense and low on sugar. So, I mean, a lot of people don't like Fiber One and All Bran. Those are probably the best because they do have a lot of fiber, 10 grams per serving, and they're lower on sugar. And then if you want to sweeten it, you can put in natural sweeteners like maybe a little honey. Cinnamon's a great sweetener and so forth. That's what I would go for. On muesli and kind of the more adult cereals, you also got to worry about they're going to have more of like the boring stuff, like pieces of fruit, maybe some nuts. That's great, but you're still looking at the sugar, so you got to limit the sugar on those big time. If you look on the other side of the aisle, not to mention, we're not even talking about the GMO issues with the corn and with the soybean and the oils and all that. Look on the other side, instant oatmeal. Look, if you're going to do oatmeal, do steel cut oatmeal. Don't do the instants. And then the flavoring in the instants, what? Food dyes, fake sugars, and so forth. If you look at the granola bars or the breakfast bars, it's the same thing. It's the same culprits. Corn sweetener, sugar, some oil to emulsify it, some food dye in there. It's just garbage, guys. Garbage. If you want something that's nutrient dense, that's quick and easy for breakfast, well, I would tell you, look, eat eggs. I don't eat till 3 o'clock every day, but I'll eat eggs for dinner. I had eggs for dinner yesterday. So, there are healthy alternatives for dessert or for breakfast. Breakfast, which is dessert in the morning, but there are healthy alternatives for breakfast. So eggs, bacon that's not shot up with nitrates. There are things out there, but all the instant foods, right? That's the whole reason why they're in the middle of the grocery store. They don't need to be refrigerated. These are shot up with sugars, shot up with preservatives so they don't get bad. All those things in the middle aisle, it's best to avoid. It's best to avoid the large majority of them because they're going to be high in calories, low in nutrition, and they're shot up with so many preservatives that are bad for our bodies. They're bad for our bodies. So if you have to get something in this aisle, I would tell you, get the fiber-dense cereals if you have to get something. And of course, obviously, stay away from the pancake mix, the waffle mixes. All those are just empty calories. We do have recipes at the website that have nutrient-dense, gluten-free versions of waffles and pancakes, but overall, the standard stuff is just garbage. And then, of course, you're just dripping syrup on it most of the time. Again, I'm not a defendant for true maple syrup, but most syrups are like Aunt Jemima and all that. They're not even from the tree. They're just high fructose corn syrup based sweeteners. So just avoid all of these things, the muffins, the danishes, if you want to lose weight and keep it off. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.